Today, we're going to talk about something every manager feels, but very few actually say out loud. And it's the invisible weight that you carry at work and how it quietly drains your resilience over time. By the end of the session, you'll be able to identify the hidden burdens that you carry and no one sees. You're going to understand how invisibility impacts your energy and resilience, map out your own invisible load, and use a simple reflection tool to regain some of your clarity and your strength. So let's get into it. If you have ever ended a workday feeling completely drained and you couldn't explain why, what's the reason? There is an actual reason for it. Managers sit in the middle of everything. I mean, picture this. You are in between your own managers, your own bosses, and your team. This is you. This is your line. And you have to answer the questions that come from the top and the bottom, the unexpected issues, the problems that arise. And you are the constant linking your bosses and your team, and don't forget yourself together. So you're the one that people go to when something goes wrong. Most of what you do isn't visible, but it's heavy. And that weight, it adds up. So let's name the invisible part of your job. The reason, the real reason your resilience get drained. Number one is the emotional burden. Think about it. What is your emotional burden? You carry other people's stresses, their frustration, fear, confusion. And you're not only carrying theirs, but yours as well. And you're expected to actually stay steady while you're doing all of this. Number two, you carry something called a decision burden. If you make a decision, but the decision doesn't just impact you. In fact, you make decisions all day long, often without having enough clarity or enough information to actually make the decision, but you must make the decision anyway. And so that becomes a burden. And that's something else that sits in that line between you, your bosses, and your team. You carry another type of burden, and that is the cultural burden or the culture burden. Think about this one. You are the unofficial counselor, the stabilizer, the encourager, the mediator, right? And so you are tasked with keeping your culture going, making sure that the office culture, the work culture, the space culture is what it's supposed to do the work it was hired to do. And so you are the one carrying that burden. Number four, the one you were hired to do, the performance burden. And this one, it speaks to your results, right? What are you accountable for? Sometimes you don't have all the resources that you can actually use to produce those results, produce the performance that is expected from you, and sometimes you don't have the authority or control, and you have to wait for answers from up above, right? And number five is the translation burden. The translation burden. And this one, leadership gives you directions, your team needs meaning. You sit in between. So you have to translate constantly back and forth from where the decision came from, what it means, and how to actually make it work for your organization. Now, these burdens don't appear on your job description, but they shape your entire day, your entire week, your entire job performance, having these burdens on you. When these invisible burdens pile up, here's what starts to happen. First, you start losing this psychological safety because you start carrying stress alone. Um, there's no space to talk about it, especially if you don't have the support you need. Your nervous system stays in alert mode constantly because you're constantly seeking attention, you're constantly seeking support, you're constantly seeking answers to all these things that we just listed. You are constantly anticipating the next issue. And your identity gets blurry amongst all of this. You start questioning yourself, even though you're doing more than anyone realizes, but you're still questioning because, well, what is the resolution here? There's no resolution when there's constant burden after burden after burden, and things just keep piling up. Burnout becomes quiet, not dramatic, not obvious, just a slow decline in energy. That's what happens as the result of these burdens is this energy starts shifting and it unfortunately starts going down. Now, a lot of times we only focus on our time and how much time we're spending, but we neglect to look at our energy. And that is a measure of our burnout. So, when that happens, when this happens, the slow decline in your energy, you also start losing other things like clarity. What is the right thing to do here? Especially when there is always, you're in a rush culture. There's no time to stop and clarify and get answers. Okay. You also start to lose some patience. And then the last one, motivation. And all of these hit hard and they create this feeling of burnout. This is why so many managers wake up tired before the day even started. They don't want to go because it's another thing they're going to face all of these burdens, all of this loss of energy, clarity, patience, and motivation, and they don't want to face it. You wake up already tired. Resilience doesn't start with pushing harder. Now, a lot of people say, okay, I'm resilient, I have tough skin, I can handle this, but it's not about being tough to handle all of this and push through it. It starts with actually telling yourself the truth and being honest. So you can't strengthen what you don't know, and what you don't name is what you don't know. I want you to actually start noticing and naming so you can start knowing what it is that you're facing and what it is that you're going to strengthen. You cannot refill energy from a burden you're pretending isn't actually there. I mean, a lot of times we say, this is just part of work. I'm just going to handle it. But you can actually fix it and make it better. When you finally name the invisible parts of your job, you stop taking your exhaustion personally and you start understanding it more clearly. So here is a simple, practical uh, exercise that can help you get clarity today. So let me start a new page. And here we go. Um, Take a notebook and write down step one. What am I carrying that no one sees? What am I carrying that no one sees? Got to the end of the page. I can't do the exclamation point. Um, List the not just the tasks, but I also want you to think of it as the emotional loads. What are the emotional loads that you're carrying? People may see the tasks, but they may not see the emotional load. So think of those items. Think of all the interruptions on the day to day basis that you actually have to deal with, um, the pressures that you go through. What kind of pressures are you dealing with that no one can see? What about the decisions? What about the responsibilities? I want you to think of everything that you are carrying that no one is seeing. Okay. Um, Step two, I want you to think about what is draining you the most. Now that you have thought about all these things that you're carrying and no one is seeing, I want you to think about what is draining you the most. Now, of all of these things at the top, that's what you're thinking about what's draining you the most. And then circle the items that feel the heaviest. These are the resilience leaks. This is what you're gonna work on and we're gonna fix. Okay. And then step three, what's one shift that I can make this week? One shift. And I'm emphasizing one because you don't want to overwhelm yourself trying to solve the overwhelm problem, right? So you're going to think of one shift that you are going to work on this week, okay? And think of that one item, maybe a boundary, maybe a pause to help you reflect, maybe a better question, maybe a delayed decision or a delayed answer, maybe a clarifying conversation that you can have with someone else to understand. So think of this one thing that you can do this week. Because when you're trying to build resilience, it doesn't require that you change your entire life in the heat of the moment. It actually grows from the small things that you start doing, but they have to be not only small, they also have to be intentional. And then one other thing, they have to be consistent, right? Um, because if you start something but it's too big for you to handle, you're just going to add to your overall. So it has to be small. If you're just doing something but you don't actually haven't given a good thought, it's going to add to your overwhelm. So what you need to do is be intentional about the decision that you're making and the thing that you're going to practice. And it has to be consistent because you have to do this. You have to maintain this in order to go long term sustainability and be able to repeat that habit. What you want to do is get into the um, routine of creating daily small habits that just live with you, that become simple, repeatable systems that help you over time get rid of all these burdens that we listed. So small, intentional, and consistent. If you have been feeling invisible, unseen, or stretched thin, you're not imagining it. You're not failing. You are not weak. You've been carrying a role that demands far more than it actually acknowledges. And it adds up over time, it seems to. But you don't have to stay unseen. Naming what you carry is that very first step that you can take in reclaiming your energy back, your clarity, and your resilience. Name what you carry. Take this one step today and build from here. Once you do this today and you practice this, you take this one and create this small, intentional, and consistent habit for this week. Do it again next week and the week after that, and for the next 30 days. Then do this one more time. Do the what am I carrying that no one is seeing? What is draining you the most? What's one small shift? And do the small, intentional, and consistent. So do this exercise every 30 days with one small habit. So that way you can start building these habits of resilience. And if you like to understand your resilience more clearly, you can actually take the free Manager Resilience Scorecard that is really quick and it's simple and helps you understand and gives you a snapshot of where your resilience is strong using the 5 pillars of resilience. You'll find that in the description, and I hope you try this and let me know how it did for you.